Hello everyone, welcome to Carousel again, where I, your host, Barry Kesselman, hops on a horse or two on the carousel and goes around looking for interesting people who have interesting stories about interesting projects. And today I have someone who is really interesting. Last time we talked with Tom Greenbaum, who talked about making businesses out of five basic topics. The first one was ideas. Well, today we have a real idea man, an engineer and a consultant who has spent an amazing career in an amazing lot of areas, coming up with new products, new ideas, new things, and we're going to start talking about them with Mr. Jack Cohen.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, Jack. Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Jack, tell us about some of the areas in which you've worked over the years.
I've worked in many fields. I worked in the field of spectroscopy, a field of colonoscopy, gastroenterology. I'm losing it. I even have a device which is placed on the moon.
On the moon?
On the moon, yeah. It's a retroprism which measures the distance from the Earth to the moon and back. It was done in very early days. In fact, if you go to the Smithsonian in Washington, you can see it there.
Oh, very good. You're the first person that I've talked to that has come that close to the moon of anyone that I know.
Well, I never went there, but anyway, it was a group of people. We got together in a company, and that's what we designed. I've been in the field of stapling, instrumentation for. Instead of suturing, we do stapling. It's a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot safer.
Yeah, I want to get into those areas because you've had such a diverse area of concentration, or lack of concentration, just a really wide area. But let me start off with some of your background. I know that you were in the military.
Yes, I was in the military.
And you were in the Korean War.
That's correct.
You look pretty good for a 60-year-old, actually.
60-year-old? Well, actually, I'm 85.
85?
Okay.
Well, you just look like a 60-year-old.
As a matter of fact, I entered the engineering school when I was 14, and I spent 4 years in engineering school. My first design in engineering school was, well, actually before that, when I was 9 years old, I used to make what they call stink bombs. Stink bombs are celluloid from the old film industry.
Yes.
You wrap up in newspaper and kind of paper and light the end. As a matter of fact, one day I decided I would try it out in the school, and it was in the auditorium, and I set one of the stink bombs off, and I ended up being expelled from the school for a week, but that was okay. The other thing I designed during the war when I was in Liverpool, England.
The war being the war, World War II.
The World War II.
The war, okay.
I was about 12 years old, I guess, at the time, and food was very scarce, and such a thing as meat was impossible to obtain. And on my way through North Wales, which I used to cycle every day for relaxation, every weekend for relaxation, I saw some hares, there was a large rabbits up on a hill. And I said, boy, that's a good idea. Maybe I get some rabbits for food. So I came back home and designed a snare. I went back into North Wales, and the first one didn't work, and the second one didn't work. The hare was too big, or the hare was too small. Eventually I caught a hare. And so the family had meat that night.
Okay, so you have the kind of thinking ability that is what I would call a creative mind, a scientific engineering mind. Yes. Well, I would like that, because you are just like that. So early on, before you even went to college at 14, you were coming up with various ideas.
Correct.
And then in college it was engineering school.
That's correct.
Rigorous engineering school.
Vigorous. It was 9 to 5, half day on Saturday. So that's for 10 months or 11 months out of the year, you got 1 month off. So it's not like school education in this country. It's constant training. You also work in a factory where you learn to be a machinist, so what you design you can actually make with your own hands. And the only thing wrong with the education is no art. You don't learn botany, you don't learn all the nice things, you don't learn music, you don't learn all the things that make you a all-around human being. So it's just purely engineering. They used to call us uncut diamonds because you weren't polished.
Very good, but It's you uncut diamonds that keeps advancing the world.
Well, as a matter of fact, I had an uncle that was in the pawnbroker business in England. Well, actually, they were silver and goldsmiths. And the refugees coming out of Europe used to bring their jewelry because they didn't have the money. They sold it in their clothing and they get it out of Germany. And we come to the pawn shop and they would sell it. And my uncle gave him a very good price. He was a very fair guy. And they would sit in the back popping out jewelry. And so what I would do then, I would take the silver and the gold and I melt it down in blocks and we sell it to the British government. So I designed a kiln to melt the silver and the gold. I was a young kid at the time.
Is there anything that comes along that you don't think you have a great idea for and make it better? Does your mind think like that?
Absolutely. I designed at one. I was designing in the field of colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy.
I was designing an instrument for intubation to look inside the intestine. And I happen to have a model, it's a model that I made myself
while you,
out of a piece of tubing.
Oh, there you go. Do you want me to hold either end of that?
Would you please?
Oh, you're giving me the wrong end, but that's okay.
Just don't swallow it, Barry. We could look at your stomach tonight if you'd like.
Okay.
This is just a dummy. So there's a, oh boy. You should have taken it out, Barry. It's going to eat up time.
Oh, well. Now, this is for colonoscopies, which the medical profession suggests that people over 40,
over 50, get it, or 35 sometimes, if there's a chance of polyps in the family, because in 3 to 5 years, a polyp can become cancerous.
Right.
So what they do, they go in and they spot a polyp, they take it out, and then you're free of cancer. I had a friend that actually died from colon cancer because he refused to go to a doctor when he was 50 to get checked out. And the unfortunate part about it, his brother had colon cancer and had died. But
So
basically what it is a long fiber optic in here.
yes.
Well, let's do it this way. I don't know whether they can see this or not. But
Well, we'll check it out. Let's see.
yeah, I got
Here.
a piece of
So
cardboard here. but,
This. When did you come up with this, Jack?
well, I was working in a company that made this type of device. You can see the.
Yes, because it is. Okay. So it goes on and on and on and on. The colon is about how long? 6 feet?
Cold's about, well, this one here is about 5 feet.
Okay.
And here's a picture of a real cold.
A real one. Oh, this is your
Real-
device. This is the real device as opposed
real
to
device,
the mock-up
right.
that we have.
A colonoscope.
Okay. So about.
So what happens is that they had designed these, and they had what they call a articulating finger on the end here. It moves around like this. And what they do, they insert into the patient, and with a knob at the other end, they manipulate this articulating finger like this, and it looks around inside the colon.
Right.
The trouble is it's quite a large instrument, and it's to have trouble intubating sometimes, and they have to put a lot of Vaseline on here. But so I was up at a conference in Boston. It was a plastic conference, and I was talking to a fellow. Actually, his name is Dr. Zeitcher, and he had a plastic that, when it got wet, got very slippery.
Yes.
So I said to myself, gee, that'd be a great thing to stick on here. Put a sheath on here that would be very slippery when wet, because the body is a lot of water.
Right.
So I came back and I put the sheath on here, and I took it down to a hospital, and actually Columbia Presbyterian, and we tried it out, and the surgeon said it's the greatest thing he'd ever seen. However, it never flew.
Before you get to the however part, so what this did, this invention, viewers, is you coated it over this device that went up to do the colonoscopy.
Right.
And it was a very, very slippery surface, so it just went right through
sort
the
of
colon.
intubated
very,
itself,
yeah, very
because
easily.
the intestine is a odd shape.
Right.
It comes up and
and it's got a-
turns,
Oh, loop.
This is descending, coaling,
So this
ascending,
just slips it in really easy.
transverse and ascending. And what happened? They got to get around these bends.
So this doctor thought that this was a really great idea. This doctor
Yeah.
who performs these
Yes, he did.
this
However,
procedure.
go ahead.
Yes. Go ahead. So what happened?
And of course, it has a lens on here which you can look through, and
Yeah,
the
that's-
fiber optic is all the way to the end. It has a light,
Right.
and so you put a light in here, and you can see where you're
Right. You
going.
can see what
in-
you're doing, and then you can take
see
care
where
of
you're
any
going
polyps
inside
on
the
it.
colon.
But
right.
so let's talk about the.
So it's an invention that never got anywhere.
Yeah.
Because
Why
can
is
I
that?
really say why?
Say why.
Because what it
Just
was.
don't name names.
Beg your pardon?
Just don't name names.
I won't name names.
Okay.
'Cause what it did, it put the instrument in the hand of a general practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And we took it to a convention, and the colonoscopy society, whatever they call themselves, didn't think it was a good idea. I think it was purely money generated. In other words, it took an instrument out of their hands for diagnostic only into the hands of a general doctor, a standing doctor.
Have you found other aspects like that where there have been your inventions that have
Yes,
been helpful that didn't make it to the
Yes,
to the business world?
I was in a company that designed, and people will probably recognize the company that made mailing devices for the post office, sorting mail and things like that. There was a machine that was the size of, let's say it was at least 5 or 6 feet long,
Okay.
maybe more. And I was looking at it one day, and I was looking at how the envelopes were opened up and the paper going through and being stuffed. And I said, boy, that's an awful big, bulky instrument. So I designed one that was no bigger than this table. It did the entire thing. It took the paper, it folded the paper, it stuck it into the envelope, sealed the envelope, and out she went.
Yes.
It never flew because if, as a matter of fact, it was the quickest patent that they had received in the company at the time. I have a copy of the patent right here.
Well, just tell us about it.
Okay.
You have at least six patents.
Yes. Well, I have.
Well, I didn't mean to digress. So go ahead,
It's okay.
finish the story.
I have many patents that were borrowed, say, and my name never got on the patent. So anyway, what this instrument, it never flew because the company decided that this is what people wanted, this is what they saw, this is what the post office had, and what it would do, it was like the cotton gin.
Mm-hmm.
It took away jobs, and the thing never flew, which really upset me because it was a great idea. Not as great as the slippery colonoscopy, but it was a good idea
Now,
anyway.
I think you must have some kind of process. When you
Yes.
see something, you visualize it in a certain way, and then you come up with a better idea.
Yes, what
What's
happens
that?
is I'm called into a meeting, as I said before, and particularly just about a year ago, they wanted to design this microwave oven that digested to find out what metals were in certain, like shellfish. And the microwave ovens of today, to do this type of process, is about this. It's about, I would say, 3 feet by 3. It's about a 3 foot square. Huge things.
Okay, now we're talking about commercial microwave ovens, not the kind of thing that's in your kitchen to heat your
but
coffee.
not in the kitchen. This is to dissolve you, for instance, put you in and find out how much lead's in your body, right?
How much lead's in my body? Okay.
So what happens is that they give me the thought. I mean, I don't come up with thoughts. Well, I have done before. I come up with ideas, but basically my living is made by you telling me what you want to do. You want to design an articulating finger? I'll design an articulating finger. You want to design a big toe? I'll design a big toe. So, as a matter of fact, I did an implant for a toe, by the way.
Yes.
Arthritis. It was even used on my brother, but beside the point. So what happens is that I listen to everybody. I listen to what they want to do, and I walk out of the room and I turn it off. And I go about my business.
Mm-hmm.
My brain has a strange processor. What it does, it festers the idea in the back of my mind. I don't even think about it. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll wake up. Bingo. That's my productive time. That's the time when the ideas are formulated and I see things in 3D.
Yeah. What does that mean?
3D means I see it like I see you. I can see the side of you behind you. So I see things in 3D. Most people can't see things in 3D. They can't design in 3D. Today they have instrumentation that does that for you, the computer. But years ago they never had that. So I actually see things in 3D. So they want to say to me, I want to design something. I said, like the camera here, I can see this in 3D. Most people look at that and just see what they see, like a photograph. But I see all around. Right? So then, so at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm wide awake, and unfortunately, my wife has to put up with me.
Yes.
So I disturb her at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm down, and I'm just going crazy. My mind races. I can't even get everything down on paper fast enough. And by 3, 4 o'clock, I fall asleep again. The next morning, I talk to my wife all about the thoughts I had that night. And I've been with my wife now for 60 years. And she's my partner in crime.
Yes.
And she says, you know, that don't sound good, Jack. And so she's learned through the years how to help me with my design. And basically, that's what happens.
So I believe that you have designed things to make them smaller. For example, that giant microwave, you designed it down to something that was probably a foot cubed or so?
The size of the table. Oh, yeah, the size of the table. Good.
The size of the table.
No, I mean, actually, it's about I would say, 1.5 foot high by 1.5 foot square. And the other thing I did about it was interesting because microwave ovens are square. And I said, why make them square? Because make them round, they get more stuff inside for less space. And so I designed a round one. As a matter of fact, it was supposed to be going to be made in China. We brought 2 people in from overseas.
Yes.
There's a fellow we know that has a company in China, and they were going to build it, but the economy got a little bad, and we just don't have enough money to go into it yet. But someday it'll be made, I hope.
Well, very good. Bring it back to America.
Bring it back to America. Oh, China's everything. You know, okay, bring it back to America. American made.
So, American made. Some of the areas in which you've worked, and you can tell us some of the ideas you've come up with. In the medical instrument area, we discussed the colonoscopy device.
Well,
you also had something that was helpful either for you or one of your relatives that related to heart arteries or gastric system.
Well, it was me, actually.
It was you, and you're still here. So it must have worked.
Well, I want to digress a little bit. I was extremely ill, and I went out to Milwaukee to get coronary. I made a mistake. That's the second thing. I was working at my desk, and I became very sick, very ill. And I went home and said to my wife, I think I've had it. I think I'm on the way out. And she said to me, what's the problem? I said, well, I just don't know. She took me to the hospital, and I met a Dr. Crum, who was a surgeon, and said to me, Jack, you got a half an hour to go. I got to get you upstairs real quick. Your intestine is burst. It put a hole into the bladder, and fecal matter from your bladder was going into your bladder.
Right.
Fecal matter from the intestine was going. Yeah, right. And what happened to me was interesting because most intestines go up and down, and across and down. Mine had a big loop here, which was very fortunate for me because they took a foot of the intestine out, straightened out the loop, and tied it together. Now, how do you do an end-to-end anastomosis? Years ago, I had designed an instrument to do that.
Years before this happened?
Yes. And the instrument was used on me, so I didn't have to have a colostomy.
Very good.
It was one instrument.
There is some wonderful
So
activity.
I saved my own life, so to speak.
That's
I guess.
Excellent.
The other thing was when I was 1980, I was 52 years old. I wasn't feeling good, and I'm a sort of person who sort of pushes that sort of stuff aside. I went to the hospital to have a stress test, which everybody should have at a specific age, and I failed. They told me I had 6 arteries that were colluded. They were blocked.
Clogging, right.
And I'd be lucky to be alive. The main artery was like 80% blocked, and one was blocked 95%. So what they did, they shipped me out to Milwaukee. And out in Milwaukee, I decided to, I don't know if you saw a picture of the...
No, just tell us about it.
Okay.
Just tell us how your invention or your...
Yes, I invented something that didn't fly. So when I went out there, I sat down with, because the type of person I am, I sat down with the surgeon, and he showed me what they were going to do, and he mapped it all out, and it was very interesting. And I said, "Boy, it's pretty chaotic. It looks like Louis Pasteur. You know, they split your sternum and open you up like a big chicken." And anyway, so I said, "Well, that's horrible." So they put me on a table, and they did the operation. I had 6 coronary bypasses, and I died. They couldn't wake me up.
You know, for a guy who died in 1980, you're still looking pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, so
what was your contribution to your own
I'm going to say, so
success?
he finally, I had actually 8 hours of surgery, because I had 2 surgeries the same
what was
day. Because what happened is when they stitched me up, I had a bleeder, and I was bleeding inside. So anyway, long story short, when I was finally out of it and back to consciousness, I said, "Oh, that's pretty chaotic. What they do to you, you know?" So I said, "Well, there must be better ways than that." Because the only big difficulty they have is stitching your sternum, and it's a big stainless steel wire with a big hook, like a fishing hook, and they go like this,
Right,
and
like an upholstery hook.
And so I said, "Gee, you know what? It's a good idea." So at that time, I was doing stapling devices. So I designed a stapler to staple the sternum together. Well, it's not as simple as it sounds, because it's blind. You can't, a staple goes like this, like a hook.
Inside.
You can't see inside. So I designed something that would do that, but never flew.
I think you brought some instruments
Yes, I did,
in that
as a
area
matter
with
of
you. Why don't you get them out? And while you're doing that, let me say that your current activity involves things that can test for pollution, can test for, well, for example, you told me that if you took 1 trillion gallons of water, all I know is the size of the Pacific Ocean, but
right.
And if someone just dumped a little bit of some yellow stuff in there.
Who knows what they dumped in there?
Whatever they dumped in there, just a little bit.
We don't know what it is.
You have a machine that can tell you that it's there,
that is
the
correct.
metals are in there, and how much.
That is correct.
It's amazing.
Well,
but let's talk about
explain
this really quickly, because
oh,
we're going to run
okay,
out of time, and then we can talk about that.
People that are overweight, that cannot lose weight, decide they're going to have
a tummy tuck.
Not a tummy, it's internal, right?
Yeah.
So what they do is they take the stomach and they will crimp off part of it, and this tool is what they crimp it off with. Let me just set it. Oh no, I'm sorry. So the surgeon has a tool like this. So and they take part of the stomach and they go like this. So instead of the stomach being this diameter, now it's this diameter. The person eats less, and they put this. They put the lining of the stomach in here like this. I'm not going to fire it because my finger will stay there forever. Yeah. And then they close it, and they fire it, and they staple that part of the stomach, and then they pop it open. Let's start again.
So you've done a lot of really interesting things in the medical field.
Yeah, and that's
some
one
of which
thing
has actually saved your life. Now that's incredible that could happen.
This one here.
Let's just focus. Let's skip over that because we don't have that much time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And talk about not at all. Talk about some of the things that you're doing now with spectrometry.
Spectrophotometry.
Yes.
Okay. In the 1950s, spectroscopy really wasn't here yet. It is actually the idea came from Australia, in one of the universities out there. And the company I was working with decided that they would build an atomic absorption spectrophotometry.
Yes.
Now what you have to do is you have to, we explained before about the lead atoms being excited.
Right.
So what you have to do is first of all, you have to break down the wavelength, the specific wavelength. So like, it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, like a rainbow.
Right.
So you break down a specific wavelength, and how you do that is you pass the light through a slit mechanism. I don't know if I can see that. There's a
Pretty
hole.
well. Just, that's okay. They're not going to be able to see. So
Okay.
just,
And this one I designed was the first one designed in the 50s, and it is the heart of every spectrophotometer that's ever been built since 1950. Unfortunately, my name's not on the patent. And
yeah, that's probably a different story.
the patent was taken from me. Now, a couple of years ago, I took the same idea and made we can see that, a simpler one. So you can see the progression from early designs to modern design. It's like the 1932 Ford to the 2013 cars.
Right.
So there's a progression.
And that's where,
Now, yes.
That's where you
thank
use an
you, Barry.
instrument like this.
Thank you, Barry. This is a slipstick, that's what the engineers call it.
Yeah.
It's actually a slide rule. And this piece of device here was designed many, many years ago. And it built the Brooklyn Bridge. It's built everything from up to engineering until the computer. And it's a very simple device. It adds, subtracts, multiplies.
it doesn't
divides.
add and subtract. Even, you're trying to fool me. It doesn't add and subtract.
What does it do?
It does all multiplications, but it doesn't add and subtract. The only thing it doesn't do is add and subtract.
The only thing it doesn't
But
do-
you almost fooled me on that.
Okay.
So,
I'll buy that, Barry.
so you've been involved in so many things. You were in the military. You were on a ship, or did you design something that had to do with weaponry?
That's a funny thing. I was a reconnaissance scout in North Korea, of all places. And I had an M1 that it's single shot, bang, 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 bang.
We have less than a minute, so you're going to have to shoot it out quickly.
Okay, so what I did, I filed the trigger mechanism so I have an automatic weapon.
So you turned the rifle into an automatic weapon. And now look what the world has come to.
Now look what's come to, right?
Okay, so we're done. I want to thank everyone once again for being with us on the Carousel. We look forward to seeing you again. You can tell that with Jack Cohen you could talk forever because he's such an interesting person and has come up with so many interesting ideas. Once again, it's been a pleasure. I'm Barry Kesselman, and I wish to see you again in a couple of weeks. And I can say goodbye from the Carousel as I swing merrily along. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jack. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Barry. I'm sorry you didn't have more time.
Me too.